You are listening to the Wear Wag Repeat Podcast, the only show 100% dedicated to highlighting women in all areas of the pet industry. I'm your host, Tori Mystic. And if you couldn't tell by the title of this episode, let me bring to your attention that we are at episode 300 of the Wear Wag Repeat podcast. I'm so excited. I can't believe that I've recorded 300 episodes, hundreds of interviews with women all over the pet industry, from groomers to breeders to social media experts to photographers to rescue advocates, fostering experts, lots of dog trainers, web designers, lawyers, everything in between. I'm sure I left out a lot of categories there. There's a huge archive of episodes that you can go back and listen to. If you're interested in listening to the podcast for, I think it's like 6 straight days is what it would take you if you wanted to listen to the entire archive. But, I don't expect everyone to go do that. Whether you're a new listener or you've been listening from day one, I just want to thank you, because every download, every subscriber, every review really helps the show get out there, and it helps my mission, which is to celebrate women in the pet industry, to provide an example of what's possible, and to inspire other women to pursue their pet dreams, or their fur-covered dreams, I like to call them. Looking back on the podcast, I actually had the idea to start this show in May of 2017. So that's 6.5 years ago. I was at the Blog Pause conference with Lucy by my side, of course, and I heard this keynote speaker who suggested that all of the bloggers there at the conference, which there was hundreds of us, that we should all start podcasts, and we should think of ourselves as these media empires, just like NBC. And we could have all these different shows and all these different platforms and all these different things going on. These days, I prefer to try and simplify all of the content that I'm creating. But back then, it really got me excited, and it got me thinking about the possibilities. So I started this show. I think the first episode came out, I can't remember if it was October 1st or November 1st of 2017. But that was over 6 years ago. So I just want to remind you that if you're listening to this and you're wondering, how can I grow my pet business overnight? How can I make millions of dollars by tomorrow? Take a deep breath, slow down. It's probably not going to happen that quickly. I've been doing my blog for over 10 years, and I've had this podcast for over 6 years. I still love doing both of them. And I think it's because I have such a passion for what I do. I have a passion for pets, and I have a passion for their people. And the more and more involved I get in the pet industry, I realize how important it really is to shine a light on women and the work that we do. There is still a lot of imbalance when it comes to genders in the workforce. I mean, sometimes it feels like we're living in the 1950s when you look at who is on the board of some companies and who's running the biggest companies in the pet world and in all different industries. So I think it is still really, really important. And I'm still holding true to my mission of featuring women in the pet industry going into 2024. And I don't know, guys, I don't know. We could be recording episode 350 at the end of next year. Who knows what's going to happen? So over the last 6 years, I just want to share with you that I've had over 177,000 downloads. My show has been award nominated by the Pet Writers Association of America. And I've also been featured, my podcast has been featured in the Wall Street Journal. So sticking with your dreams and having that perseverance to keep doing it week in and week out, it really is worth it, and it does pay off down the road. Doing this podcast for over 6 years, I have definitely noticed a lot of changes in myself and how I do my job. So, for example, going back and listening to some of my earlier episodes, I realized that I did not breathe and I talked really fast. If I listen to my earlier episodes, sometimes I feel like I'm listening to it at 1.5 speed. There's no pauses. That Tori, she was in such a rush to get out everything that she wanted to say. Tori today, at the very end of 2023, as we get ready for a new year, this Tori is happy to take a pause, happy to take a breath, and happy to just kind of see how everything plays out. So that is one example of how I've kind of seen my own personal growth through the podcast. I also have had the opportunity to interview people who I thought were a really big deal. And I've also, now that I'm reflecting on it, I've had some podcast episodes that I was really excited about that didn't end up working out. Through no fault of the people, oftentimes it is just scheduling. But there is some disappointment sometimes when things don't work out the way that you're hoping to, or you don't hit 1 million downloads instantly. So I think that getting used to not having like low expectations, but just getting used to being realistic and knowing that it's going to take time and not everything is going to work out perfectly all the time, but it will just kind of work out how it's meant to work out eventually. That's a big lesson that I've taken away from doing this podcast for the last many, many years. I also would like to just briefly point out the community impact of this podcast. I have hundreds of people listening to every single episode. Sometimes I get a little bit down on myself. To be totally transparent with you, some episodes have like 200 downloads. Some episodes have 2,000 downloads. It just kind of depends, I think, on the guest and maybe what kind of keywords I put in the title and the timing, and who knows what the other factors are. But some episodes don't get a lot of downloads. But when you think about it, if I was in a room speaking to 200 people and they listened to me talk for 30 minutes, that would be really amazing. That would be like a big moment in my career, right? So the fact that I can have 200 people, or sometimes occasionally 2,000 people listening to my podcast every single week, that's really awesome. And I think it just goes to show this community that we have built around pursuing your dreams in the pet industry. This isn't some silly little hobby, and it's not, some silly little thing that we're working on. What we're doing really matters, and I really find that, it's so important to me that people are coming back and listening, because it shows that they value what I do and I value what they do. So this whole community that we've built, that you're in right now, because you're listening to this right now, it's really, really important. It's not just important to me, but I think it's important to the entire pet industry across the globe. I've also been able to connect with so many women in the pet industry as guests. And it's really cool whenever I do occasionally go to a big in-person pet event. I can walk around and I feel like I know so many people. Sometimes I've interviewed so many people that I blank on everyone's name. I am not very good at remembering names to faces. I think part of it is because I live so much of my life on the internet and not everyone has their face on their social media all the time. So sometimes I'm walking around events and I see people and I cannot remember their names. And so that's a little bit embarrassing, but it does remind me just how far reaching and how impactful this community is. So I just want to thank you so much for being part of that and believing in my mission, which is supporting women in the pet industry. Okay, now I want to share with you some exciting changes that I have for 2024. I have spent the past month brainstorming how I can give you better stuff in 2024 when it comes to this podcast, Wear Wag Repeat Society, which is my monthly membership, other new products and services, and free groups, freebies, downloads, promotions, partnerships, events, etc. I have been brainstorming everything and anything that I think would help you grow your pet business next year. Of course, I'm hoping this will also grow my pet business, but really we're growing together. When I help you grow, it helps me grow. So anything that I'm doing, I can't really only think about myself. I always have to think about the entire Wear, Wag, Repeat community. Okay, so I want to give you a little teaser of some of the upcoming changes and enhancements that are coming to all of my offerings in 2024. So, one big change that I'm excited about is right here on this podcast. If you've been a longtime listener, you might know that this entire year, every other episode was an interview. And then I would do solo episodes in between those, like this solo episode you're listening to right now. Prior to that, I only did solo episodes like maybe every 5 episodes. So I'm changing it up again because I got to keep it fresh and I got to keep it different. So in 2024, I am going to focus on one really valuable and actionable guest interview per month. That means that we're going to have time to do more prep for each episode, and I'm going to make sure that every guest provides you with actionable takeaways, advice, inspiration, and strategies that you can implement to grow your pet business. So we're going to kind of change the interview format. It's going to be a little bit less of How I Built This, which is one of my favorite shows that it's on NPR, How I Built This with Guy Raz, I believe. I love that show, and I've always kind of tried to emulate that style with my interviews. Well, next year we're changing it up a little bit. Instead of someone telling me their entire story of how they got started in the pet industry, how they built it up, and where they are now, instead, I'm going to ask them to share with you some really actionable strategies and advice and takeaways that you can implement in your business to grow your own pet business. So each podcast episode is almost going to be like a mini masterclass. Bookending these interviews, I am also going to do some solo episodes. I will do my regular solo episodes sharing kind of what's going on in my business. I'll also be using some of that time to highlight some cross promotions that I'm working on with other creators each month. And the solo episodes will probably be a little bit shorter than they have been. But you know me, I'm a little bit long-winded, so we will see how that goes. But I'm really, really excited to just feature one amazing standout guest every month. So the theme is kind of quality over quantity for next year's podcast recordings. Another big shift in the podcast is that the interviews will also tie into the quarterly themes in Wear Wag Repeat Society. The theme for the first quarter is money. Show me the money, right? I want to make a lot more money next year. I don't know about you, but in Q1, we are going to be focusing on money. So my podcast guests in January, February, and March will be giving you real actionable advice that you can implement to make more money next year. And if you're in Wear Wag Repeat Society, our monthly themes and guest experts are also all going to be about making you more money next year. We will be looking at profit margins, accounting systems like Profit First, which is what I use. And of course, since we're all in the pet industry, we're going to look at how working with nonprofits like animal rescues can actually grow your own business. To give you a little bit of a heads up, the theme for the second quarter of the year will be, drumroll, email, my other favorite thing. I love money, and I love email, and I love pets. So it's going to be a great first 6 months of the year. I'm really excited about this. In the rest of the Wear Wag Repeat world, I am going to really be framing my work around quarters. I don't know, this just really resonates with me for next year. I think that thinking of the entire year is a little bit intimidating. So breaking it down quarterly and kind of assigning a theme or a goal or a project to each quarter really just has me excited and it has me really energized. So like I said, Wear Wag Repeat Society will have quarterly themes. It will also be open for enrollment quarterly, and there will be a quarterly payment plan option. So the first time next year that enrollment will be open will be January 2nd through the 10th, and that will be the only time you can enroll until April, right? The end of March or early April. So I'm really excited about that. We are going to dive deep in Wear Wag Repeat Society next year. There's going to be so much more value, and I'm really excited about it for next year. Like I said, the podcast guests will also tie into these quarterly themes. So Q1 is money, Q2 is email. After that, we'll work on blogging. And then Q4 is all about networking and partnerships. Another quarterly thing that I'm doing is each quarter, I will host a free K9 in 90 workshop. So if you've been part of my world for a while, you might remember these free workshops that I was hosting back in 2021 and maybe 2022. I can't really quite remember. But it was a really fun workshop, and the theme, it's called K9 in 90. It's a play off of 9 in 90. So you're setting 9 goals for the next 90 days. And what I really love about these is they don't all have to be work related. Some can be personal. Like say that you really want to make some dish. I really want to make lasagna. I have lasagna on the brain. I really want to make lasagna sometime in the next 90 days. And I really want to go for 5 hikes in the next 90 days. And I also want to add 100 people to my email list. So for example, the 9 and 90 can be a mix of work and personal, and hopefully some dog related goals or pet related goals as well. The first free K9 and 90 workshop will be on Monday, January 8th. So stay tuned for an invitation about that. The last thing I want to give you a teaser about for next year is that I also have a couple of new and returning offers. So the Course Creator Mastermind was a huge hit this year. 4 pet professionals launched really amazing, successful online courses through my mastermind program. So I'm bringing that back this March. So if you're interested in creating an online course this year, definitely keep your eyes open for the Course Creator Mastermind program. I'm also toying with the idea of a ConvertKit set it up for you VIP service. This is something that I'm still brainstorming, and I haven't really ironed out all the details at all yet. But like I said, the Q2 theme in my world is going to be email. So I thought, why not release a new service where I could help you set up your ConvertKit account. ConvertKit is what I use for my emails, and I love it. It has really helped me to grow and scale my business and make money just by sending out an email to my list. So I would love to offer a VIP service where, for example, I spend 1 week working really closely with you to set up your account, set up your first landing page and sign up form, to set up a few automations for you, to write your email welcome sequence, and basically get everything up and running for you. So that is an idea that I'm toying with, and I might have to send out some polls and surveys to see if you guys would be interested in that. If you have any feedback or ideas or questions about any of the ideas that I just shared, I would love to hear from you. I am going to be taking a holiday break, so I won't be super responsive to email, but if you want to leave a review for the podcast or come over to the Wear Wag Repeat Labs Facebook group, of course, you can always send me a DM on Instagram at Wear Wag Repeat. I'm sure I'll be checking my IG at some point over the holiday break. Thank you so much for listening to episode 300. I wanted to just keep this short because I know it's a busy time of year for all of us, but I'm really, really excited to hit this big milestone and to announce all these exciting changes that I have for 2024. It's all designed to help you grow your pet business and to bring more of a spotlight to women in the pet industry and the amazing work that we're all doing. So thank you for being part of this world, for being a podcast listener, for being in any of my programs or free groups or anything like that. You can always go to wearwagrepeat.com/podcast to see more about this episode and check out 299 episodes that I have in the archives. If you want to listen to all of them, like I said, it would take you over 6 days. So you might want to start that now and you could finish by the new year. Thank you again so much for listening and for just doing everything that you do in the pet industry. I really appreciate you. The podcast will be on a break through the end of the year. So this is the final episode for 2023. Please come back and check in with me in January for the Wear Wag Repeat Society opening up, for the free Canine in 90 workshop, and all the other goodies that I have in store for you. Happy New Year.